Hey Trakkies, welcome back to another video. Please remember to smash that subscribe button. Yes, Hulk, smash. That's my new favorite thing. I love it. Anyway, Trakkies, also hit the like button as well. That's how the video gets to the YouTube algorithm. Share the video if you care. I hope y'all care, so share. And yes, please get in the comment section and sound off. And I have some really amazing Trakkies that are always in the comment section sounding off. Please do not let anybody, throw you off and disrupt your peace. You know what I mean? So keep commenting and keep being respectful, and ignore the ones that come at you a particular way. That's at least that's what I do. Anyway, trackies, that being said, this whole saga for high profile Jamaican athletes switching allegiance has literally become nighttime TV. Bold and the beautiful type of thing. And honestly, I miss going live because we could spend, hours really chatting it up and, discussing how we really feel, about the situation. But unfortunately, it is what it is, and I can only give you short, concise videos. So I'm hoping that I'm able to bring across my thoughts as clearly as possible. But yeah, it really has become a whole saga. The debate keeps raging on, and another twist has been added to the story, and that comes from the agent that represents both Wayne Pinnock and Jadon Hibbert. And he's expressing himself, Henry Roll, and he's dissatisfied at the fact that, so many Jamaicans, high profile Jamaicans, one, are switching allegiance, and what this means for the landscape of, athletics in Jamaica, track and field. Will it be willy nilly? We can just switch allegiance going forward. Even when you think about, the type of investment that is put into a lot of these athletes from the grassroots level before they even get to the process of, going pro and, choosing what they want to do with their lives. Is it just going to be willy nilly switch allegiance going forward? And of course, from a more personal standpoint, he represents two of those athletes, Wayne Pinnock and Jadon Hibbert. And as I said, very dissatisfied, and especially when it comes to a Jadon Hibbert, and his view on Jadon Hibbert is very interesting, track, is because I kid you not. When I got the call about, the athletes that were, intending to switch allegiance, of course, the first thing I did was crash out. Y'all know me. I love these athletes. Some people think it's weird that, we have this type of connection to the athletes, but you grow attached because you believe you're a part of something, because you were invited in from the get go to be a part of it, right? As fans. So, of course, we're going to be hurt when we hear, these type of things. And being hurt doesn't necessarily, take away from the fact that we're understanding, of the athletes choosing, what's better for, their themselves and clearly their families, their loved ones, right? But as I said, the first thing was crashing out. The next thing I asked, because of course, I was also giving some information about, the financial benefits, that would come out of it. And of course, Sportsmax had done the article, highlighting the 500,000 US just to start, right? And that was the minimum. And then, of course, it would, go on from there. And my first thought was, when Jadon was mentioned to me, I was like, Jadon? I could have sworn Jadon had a life-changing contract, right? And the reason I say that, track is because I don't know if some of y'all remember, but back when Jadon went pro, his coach had come out and said that he said to Jadon, if it's not life-changing money, it doesn't make no sense you go pro. And he was, grinning from ear to ear because Jaden was able to, sign that life changing contract, right? And now we have his agent coming out, as I said, and he's confused as it relates to how Jaden even got to this stage of, accepting to go represent Turkey, especially what it means for all the other, deals that he has. As far as he's concerned, this is a loss for Jaden, and he believes that Jaden was possibly pressured into making this decision. Pressured by who? Don't know, track is, but the point is that's what his agent thinks. So I'm gonna play a little snippet from Sportsmax so that you can hear what Henry Roll, agent of both, Wayne Pinnock and Jadon Hibbert has to say, whether or not he remains their agent after this, because I see a few people online saying that he shouldn't have come out and express these things given he's the agent of both these athletes. But sometimes you need, in my opinion at least, you need and some people around you that will show you tough love, you know what I mean, and explain things to you and break it down for you, and not just, cuddle you. You don't necessarily need people to be cuddling you around you all the time, because that may not be of, assistance to you. Whether he's right or wrong, track is, I have no idea, because I don't know the inner workings, of any of these athletes' contracts. But as I said, he's their agent. He has, an idea. Listen to what he has to say.
Encourage them to move in a particular direction, especially in regards to representing Jamaica or not?
I am very disappointed because, secondly, I got it as second nature, second conversation. Nobody came to me directly, which is a breach of the agency clause, and that's another story on a different day, you know. But
So he's saying that he got it secondhand information. No one came to him directly, and this kind of breached the contract, that he has, or some clause that is in the contract. These athletes, but we continue.
Jaden did speak to me, but I didn't think Jaden was going anywhere because the last conversation we had, Jaden gave me all the reasons why it didn't make sense then. And he didn't want to deal with the collateral damages and so forth. And so I just think that somebody harming them and so forth. $500,000 to someone out of contract, yes, a lot. $500,000 when you're under the age of 30 is not much money. Yeah, it gets you going and so forth. But I'm telling you, where this young man was going and what was planned for him and so forth, it's a loss.
So track is there. You heard Henry Roll. So for from his perspective, this is for Jadon. Now he did also, because it's a whole 30-minute interview, so you all have to go over to Sportsmax and really listen to what he had to say. But throughout segments he also did indicate a few more things in relation to his thought process. So another thing he highlighted, when it came to Jadon Hibbert, not just where he was going and what his current contract may be potentially worth, but also the ties he has to Jamaica. And I do recall seeing online where a particular commenter made a post where they believe that Jadon Hibbert could be the face of track and field in Jamaica. He has that personality, Usain Bolt-esque. He could definitely be the face of track and field in Jamaica. And hearing his agent Henry Rose say where he was going, clearly going to Turkey, no, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the face of Turkey athletics for sure. So he definitely loses out on the opportunity to become that face of track and field in Jamaica. And also all the ties, as I said, he has brand deals. He mentioned KFC as well, being a sponsor of Jadon, and it's KFC Jamaica. KFC Jamaica will not be sponsoring a Turkish athlete as well. So he did highlight a lot of the cons, especially for Jadon Hibbert himself, to switch allegiances and go represent Turkey. And for him, it made absolutely no sense. He said so much. In that 1 minute, he said so much. And what jumped out at me, first thing at least that jumped out at me, was the fact that they have already done the maths. They have already, calculated everything. And according to him, right, this would have been a massive loss for him. But Jaden himself understood that this was a loss before even him having to say anything, about it. So he's very surprised at it. And the only way Jaden could have actually, made this decision is if someone pressured him, someone or persons pressured him into doing so. So I'm like, wow, that is literally my thought process coming out of it. And interesting track is because, of course, I'm following up, everything that's going on online, athletes' reactions, and Jadon's reaction, based on, everything that has been going on, has been particularly interesting to me, because it kind of had me sitting back and wondering to myself if Jadon really is reading the room at this particular point in time. Clearly, no one, at least I haven't seen anyone, come out and say, hey, we're not supporting you on your decision, to get a better opportunity if it's better for you. But the type of tweets seemingly, joking around the track is, to me, didn't seem as though you were reading the room, as I said, and understanding the gravity of the situation. what it really means for, Jamaica overall, and the athletes that are watching or looking on, the ones that, are to come, watching this situation and realizing, oh, we can, go willy-nilly, as I said, represent another country. So his responses and reactions, online have been particularly interesting to me. And coming out of this, interview with Sportsmax, his agent, made me also wonder if he even understands, the gravity of what it means for him. Because, for the agent, everything that, Jadon, all his sponsorships, clearly, it has a lot to do with brand Jamaica, right? The mere fact that Jadon was able to, ink the deal he inked was because he was a Jamaican. With him not representing Jamaica trackies, he's literally loses all that, right? And then, of course, the sponsorship deals that are tied to to Jamaica, aka the agent, made reference to KFC Jamaica, sponsoring him. If he's no longer a Jamaican athlete, will he be having a KFC Jamaica deal? So those type of things came out, and that was part of the reason why his agent Henry Roll was really shocked at Jadon Hibbert, deciding to go represent Turkey. And as he said, in this interview track, is that for Jadon, expressly, it is a loss. And he also did highlight that for a Wayne Pinnock, though he's not on the same level of a Jadon, the mere fact that he keeps consistently, getting medals, he would eventually get there. And we understand that benefits, stack, when it comes to athletes and their contracts. So at this particular point, track is another twist, in the saga. J3As is out there, saying things like, hey, we can block, transfers from happening. And at this particular point, track is, I am not for, J3As blocking, any athlete that wants to switch allegiance. Am I happy that the athletes want to switch allegiance? No, I'm not happy, but I'm also not for, them blocking them, because at the end of the day, I don't want nobody to look around and say it's because of Jamaica why they didn't achieve, what they could have achieved. So if the athletes intend to go and if they want to go, then by all means, let them go. That is my view, on the situation. But yeah, it's really, really, crazy how much, twists and turns have been happening in this particular situation. And it seems as though, Jadon himself has reacted online. And I think he posted a meme. I'm going to put the meme up for y'all to see where he said,
I buy live and me get born with it. I buy going to school and play come from school. I buy crossroad and play a veteran when I turn back at
from my understanding, the athletes can actually choose to still represent Jamaica as long as they don't don, those Turkish colors after 3 years. They can still choose to represent Jamaica. So it will be interesting to see what happens in this window, this 3 year window, if any one of these athletes will have a change of heart, especially Jadon Hibbert. And I'm really keyed in on Jadon Hibbert because based on what Henry Rowley is saying, his contract, especially the fact that it's a Puma contract as well, it seems as though the Puma reps are very much dissatisfied. Wayne Pinnock is also a Puma athlete as well, right? It seems as though, the reps at Puma are very dissatisfied with both these athletes choosing to align themselves with Turkey. As I said, brand Jamaica is massive trackies, and a lot of these athletes are able to get contracts, even though we saw Rajendra Campbell not being able to get a contract, unfortunately. But a lot of them are able to get contracts because they are Jamaican. What's going to happen when they're no longer Jamaican? Interesting times ahead, for sure. Now, there's also information coming out, track is that, hey, they tried to steal Bryan Level. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. I haven't had a favorite male athlete. Y'all know this. I haven't had a favorite male athlete since Asafa Powell. And the moment I recognized Bryan Level, I said, that's my next favorite male athlete. And you mean to tell me they want to steal Bryan Level? And especially after Bryan Level is showing us now a resurgence in the 200 meters, we want the dege 200-meter athlete. Ono want thief? Ono must be crazy. And track is, I'm so happy when I heard Bryan Level say, hey, no thanks. Bye bye. Bye bye. I was so happy when I heard that, trackies, because at the end of the day, it still matters, to represent Team Jamaica, right? I see a lot of people say in the comment section, money isn't everything, right? I'm not gonna not say money isn't everything, because at the end of the day, when you're looking at your bills that need to be paid, yes, you need money, to pay those bills. But if you're in a position where you're already paid, you know what I mean? What's more money? And I even highlighted are you saying Bolt? Sure, he could be richer than the rich that he is, but at some particular point, right? What does it really matter at the end of the day? And I think Shelley and Fraser Price also did highlight last evening as well that we keep, and by we, I need to take myself out of the scenario because I'm not an athlete. Athletes keep looking at the J3's corporate Jamaica for more support. And she says, yes, of course, the athletes want more support, but athletes need to also remember that it's a two-way street. While you're getting, you also need to be giving back, right? Giving back to Jamaica as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean from a monetary perspective as well, but the athletes that are up and coming and looking at you need to understand what it really means to represent Jamaica. And if they're not seeing that from the current crop of athletes, then they're not going to feel the pride and passion from what it really means.
When I stand on that track on Thursday, it's not for me, it's for you. For the love, for the support, for the encouragement, for the resilience, for the pride, for the purpose and the passion that you have given me. You have inspired me. Your love, walking on the street, hearing our kids. When we talk about impact and we talk about legacy, legacy and impact goes hand in hand. Because I want for this generation to understand that yes, we want the government to show up. We want private sector to show up. But what about us? It starts with us. It starts with just us deciding that there's more to give.
Really, and I think Shelley and Fraser Price last evening really expressed that in her goodbye speech. Actually, she'll be touching the track for the final time in Kingston on Thursday, right, where she takes to the women's 100 meters. And just listening to what she had to say, track is I'm like, wow, thank you. I always express, I don't know what I'm gonna do without Shelly because my whole life I've been watching track and field. Shelly was there, so I don't know what that's gonna be like. But let's see how I get over that. I know I'll be crashing out, but it is what it is. And Veronica Campbell Brown as well. Track is another one that we saw recently on Sportsmax as well, expressing the pride she has in coming back and giving back to the community for others to look up to her and realize what she has done for the brand Jamaica and continue to build on that and allow it to grow, right? So, and guess what, track is this is something that I've been asking for a minute. I remember grumbling at the idea of seeing so many athletes that are don't have the profile the Jamaican athletes have, let's put it that way, getting crazy deals. And I remember, a representative one time saying that, how can you expect to be a non-American getting American deals? And since I heard that, I said to myself, oh, oops, oopsies. What was I really expecting? Right. So really I have been looking to corporate Jamaica, but it's like, when it comes to Jamaican companies, they don't feel as though they need to make the extra effort. But guess what? Since this whole revelation that four of our top flight athletes will be switching allegiance, corporate Jamaica has decided to step up, right? A few days, after the announcements were made, right, or the revelations were made, Shanieka Ricketts' husband, Kerry Lee Ricketts' husband slash coach, I should make sure I add that, right, came out and said she was actually approaching 2019 and 2022 to switch. Of course, they didn't, right? She loves representing her home country, Jamaica, the pride and the passion that she feels, for her country. And guess what? Dollar Financial Services has run out. Yes, as of last evening, she is now a brand ambassador for the company. So huge, huge congratulations to her.
That was quick, right? Yeah.
This is a good step going forward, not just for myself. And I can only hope that corporate Jamaica will come on board and support not only me but other field and athletes in general, because it's hard to do what we do without the financial support. and I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. I'm excited to see what will come from this partnership as I continue to prepare for the World Championships this year. And as you said, beyond, the aim is to go all the way until 2028 in LA. So that's the goal, and I'm happy to be on board with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. All of this came about because of an article that we read last Friday in the newspapers where Mr. Ricketts spoke about the loyalty of Mrs. Ricketts to Jamaica, to track and field in Jamaica, to the opportunities that had been presented her way, that she gave up to remain here. And it touched something within us at Dollar, because Dollar prides itself on the loyalty that it has with its customers, its stakeholders, its shareholders. And we thought, against that background, that Mrs. Ricketts would be a fitting brand ambassador for Dollar, and we would be able to give her some support during the course of her journey to the World Championships this year, to the next World Championships coming up, to the Olympics after that. So we're here with you. And all of this is a testimony to loyalty. Thank you. Still a senator.
Thank you.
Let's Yeah.
Trackies, we need more of this. We definitely need more of corporate Jamaica stepping up, because where, the shoe sponsor, the money isn't enough from the shoe sponsor, the other, companies in Jamaica, the private sector, them stepping up and also adding every mickle makes a muckle, to the pot, and, it will make sure that these athletes, stay comfortable, with competing for Jamaica, where they don't feel the need, to switch allegiance. It's such a shame that, this didn't come before Rajinja Campbell, because Rajinja has spoken to the fact that it wasn't an easy decision for him. He has reached out multiple times to try to get help, and he wasn't getting the help. And he said that, here, what? It's not working. 2025, I'm just gonna have to see if I can, do what is best for myself and my family. And he made that decision. So it's such a shame that, it didn't come sooner. But here, what? There's still an opportunity. As I said earlier on in the video, if you heard me, right? There's a huge gap in that 3 year window. It's 3 years. So much can change. So if these athletes are enticed back to Jamaica, I'm hoping, that a few other companies, see what's going on and decide to step in, right, and prevent what can be prevented. If it can't be prevented, it is what it is, because as I said, if the athletes want to go, let them go. I don't really want to hold on to anybody that doesn't want to stay, you know what I mean. But I mean, if there's a way to get them to stay, trackies, I'm all for it. And as I said, congratulations to Shanieka Ricketts. I'm hoping to see much more of this happen, where the private sector really step in and sort of support the athletes, because clearly it's needed, especially the field events athletes. It is absolutely needed. But anyway, track is, as I said, interesting times ahead. When it comes to these athletes, I'm keeping my eye on the pulse, so I'll let you all know my thoughts for sure. Like the video and subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.